What's going on, everybody? I'm Joe Arrigo, joining once again, back like he's never been here before because he's out hiding, running around, running amok. MJ Hurley, what's
What's
going on,
up?
brother? It's good to see you, brother.
You too. How we doing?
I'm chilling. Got my Oregon State gear from my mentor Bobby Pleasant, rocking that tonight.
Ooh,
Yeah, nice rainy day here in Vegas. So we say that this is a Immaculate Perceptions. Welcome back. We're on Game On Wisconsin, and MJ. I want to get into something right off the bat this week
let's go
because
for it.
you're the one that actually kind of put me on to it early because I've been chasing a story for a franchise,
Yes.
a Raider story. So I've been kind of all over the place today, and I didn't get a chance to read the actual article. Um, and the article is from Matt Schneidman from The Athletic. And he chatted with
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers for about 20 minutes, from what I understand, correct. And
Yes.
there are some interesting things that was said in there. Now, full disclosure, I do not know what was in the article. I just retweeted it because Jacob did. I plan on reading it later tonight. So you're going to get my reaction based off what MJ has read and whatnot. So,
So essentially, and I want to start this off by saying Matt does very good work. I have had Matt Schneiderman on my personal show, Third Down Thursdays, numerous times. He's come on the platform at Game On Wisconsin before. Genuinely a good dude, very good journalism. I have zero question about the validity of anything coming from him. I know he wouldn't exaggerate anything Aaron Rodgers said. And, given the fact that Aaron Rodgers trusts him enough to have a sit down with Matt Schneidman, and how little Aaron Rodgers generally trusts the average media member for that type of, you know, close contact, I think we can all agree that whatever Matt Schneidman wrote is probably pretty accurate in that Q&A. The thing that stood out to me the most in the Q&A with Matt Schneidman was Rodgers specifically talking about what transpired in 2018, specifically the firing of Mike McCarthy. And I'll pull up the exact quote to read because I thought the quote itself was very telling. Um, it was about the end of the Mike McCarthy era. So what
okay.
Rodgers said was transcendent coaches and players can last longer than presidents and GMs at times. And so you get in situations from time to time where you might think if it's not going as well as you think it should be going in the position of power, referring to the presidents and GMs, then there's changes that can get made because then that person has a chance to put their person into place. Rodgers said that definitely happened with Mike McCarthy. And a couple years later, obviously, they drafted my replacement, Jordan Love. And so that's just a part of daily life in the NFL.
Okay. So my first reaction is I'll start with Aaron Rodgers in particular. You're coming off 2 years where you were not playing at any type of level that was deemed MVP like or worthy. You actually were regressing. You were, I believe, hurt a couple of those years. So there was talk that this could be it for 12
Right.
at that time. Um, so Green Bay did, and let's be clear about this. And I hate rehashing it, but Green Bay tried to trade up to draft Justin Jefferson. They called the Raiders at 19. They thought they had a deal in place for Justin Jefferson. The Raiders, in particular, John Gruden, didn't want to move back that far in the first round for whatever reason. They wanted Damon Arnett that bad, thinking that he was going to be taken. I know. But I got this from high ranking Raiders officials that they were urging Gruden to take the deal because Green Bay wanted, and they knew Green Bay wanted Jefferson. They weren't in a position to take him at that time. I believe they just drafted Henry Ruggs, if I
Yes.
remember correctly. So Green Bay, after that happened, looked at their board from, again, my sources within that organization, and they said they felt as if the best player available that at a premium position for them was Jordan Love. And they can have a person just in case Aaron Rodgers continues to slide, his play continues to slide, and have somebody to come in and take over for Rodgers, much like Rodgers did after going into his fourth year with Brett Favre. So the plan was always long term with Love. So I mean, yes, they drafted the replacement, but at the same time, they did this. That's how you got on the team. That's what they did with you. So what's good for
Right.
the goose is good for the gander. And it's not the Green Bay Aaron Rodgers, it's the Green Bay Packers. So, and what do you think about McCarthy? Because to me, uh, I know I talked to a couple of players on that team, and while they were very sad to see him go, he did some things like, and I don't know if I've ever said this publicly. After the season started, a couple games in, he changed the practice schedule to where the guys came in later and left earlier, so they could have more time with their families. But they got more work. There was less downtime. They got more work done,
Yeah.
so they could spend more time. That you don't hear that, but with coaches in the NFL. But Mike McCarthy did that. He does that. He gets it. And after the amount of time he was there, what, 13 years? Is that what it
13
was?
years.
You know, and sometimes a new voice is needed, especially, if you've had the success that he did, because he was, and I know people joke about it. MJ, he was a very successful, highly successful coach. He won a Super Bowl.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And so, along with that, there's going to be a lot of talk this week about Mike McCarthy, obviously. And the one thing specifically that I do want to pull from Matt's article, again, please go read it. It was a fantastic article. It was the one thing I was able to really give some time to today. And what the other thing that I really liked specifically on Rodgers' relationship with Mike McCarthy, and I'll tie this into his current relationship with the current regime in a second. What he said was, the things I always appreciated about Mike was I could come to him with an issue, or he could call me up to the office with an issue, and we could have a really direct conversation. And it could be voices raised, or it could be super calm, or anywhere in between. But always at the end of it, every single time, Roger said, there was always a hug, and I love you, I appreciate you, thanks for this conversation. And it taught me a lot about conflict management dealing with Mike. And not to say we had conflicts all the time, because that wasn't the case, but I always appreciated the way we were able to talk to each other because it was direct and it always ended on a high note. So, Joe, before I get your response from that, what I took from that, and I may be out of line saying this, so please correct me if I am, but that just, to me, Roger saying that feeds into the entire persona that the media has essentially created for him, that he's a little baby and that he doesn't like to be coached and that blah blah blah, because it sounds like he just had to go into Mike's office and only talk to Mike every time, and that he wanted it to be all about him. He wanted a say in everything. And that may be at a more micro scale, because I'm guessing they were talking more about, play calling, the offense, things like that. And obviously, I know Rodgers didn't think he had that relationship with the front office. But to me, that quote feeds into the idea that Rodgers is a very controlling person and that he wants a say in everything going on in the entire organization. Anything that has to do with him, he wants a say. Am I wrong in drawing that conclusion?
I'm not inside those walls to say whether or not you're right or wrong. But what I will say is maybe he didn't feel like he had that relationship with Gutekunst and Russ Ball, but with Ted Thompson, he did. And obviously, towards the end, Ted was in poor health.
Right.
And God rest his soul. Look, I guess this is where I push back a little bit, because quarterbacks are wired different, and
Right.
quarterbacks are controlling. They are. I mean, if there's not one that's not, Peyton Manning's controlling what,
Right. That's their nature.
yes. And so for me, I look at it like I don't have a problem with him having a say in anything. He's earned that, more than earned that. A 4-time MVP, back-to-back MVP, Super Bowl champion, has damn near every record in the Green Bay record books, other than the
Right.
least amount of most interceptions or whatnot. Um, but I have no problem with him saying, "Hey, like, can we go get Odell Beckham, or can we go get said person or whomever it may be, or Mike? Hey, can we do this offensively because this isn't working? I'm seeing this." I got no problem with that. Where the problem is if you are the dictator in there, and then if it divides the locker room,
Right.
and that's where I have all types of issues, to be honest. So I don't know if it's him being possessive or controlling or demand. I mean, you've had a certain amount of success, and you want to keep having that success. And this is the way we've done it. So let's continue to do it this way. Or hey, we've outgrown this. Let's change it up a little bit. But look, I'm not here, and I'll make this clear. Like, I think we and I'm speaking as a fan. I'm not even speaking as
Yeah.
someone that as a journalist right now. I think there's way too much, I think, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers' attitude and people trying to read everything into everything. I mean, not everything is a story.
Yeah.
Some things are just cut and dry. Like, there are certain people that are just assholes, and there are certain people that are just really cool, depending on who you're with. I mean,
Right.
to some people, MJ, like to you and to maybe Jacob, and Bruce, like, okay, yeah, like, I'm a cool person. Joe's cool. Joe will give you the sharpest, but you know me in a different way. But to
Right.
someone that doesn't know me, insert another reporter or someone that's had maybe a bad experience with me, depending on, maybe I was going through something that day or whatever. Joe's an asshole, Joe's arrogant, whatever.
Right.
I can be both. Aaron Rodgers can be both. That's fine. We all are like that. We're all wired differently. So when it comes so I don't know if Aaron, if that article, if that one statement or that, within the article is all encompassing Aaron Rodgers. I will say this about Mike McCarthy. I've got this from a couple people that played for him
Yeah.
and that was there when the Favre era came to a close. There was furniture moved in his office when Brett Favre was there. When it was that meeting that they had,
Yeah.
there was some furniture moved, and there was a lot of yelling, and there was one person that wouldn't back down, and he ended up staying. And that's Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
Um, Players all respected Mike McCarthy because he did exactly what you want out of a head coach, to be honest and transparent at all times with your players. But he genuinely cares for his guys.
Right.
So to end with a hug, and you've seen it this week on Monday when McCarthy met with the media when he talked about Green Bay and he got choked up. Look, I know Matt LaFleur's had a lot of success early on in his career in Green Bay, and I believe one day he'll win a Super Bowl there. Um, but Mike McCarthy has a special place in my heart as a coach. Honestly,
Yeah.
meeting him and talking with him at owners' meetings, he is super cool, super genuine, and I wish he would. If I wish there was a way that he could still be in Green Bay. Just that's it. He doesn't look right with the star on his chest, and he
Yeah.
doesn't look right to me. I'm sorry, but I miss Mike McCarthy, and that's me being old and nostalgic. I don't know.
No, I agree. I think, like you said, I think you said this before we went live. But the voice was a little bit old by the time he was gone. He didn't have quite the same hold on the locker room. But he was still beloved. I mean, obviously that interview with Rodgers shows how much he loves Mike McCarthy, how much he misses the guy. Like he even at the end of it, he says I made him a Christmas present in 2018 that he still got to McCarthy, even though he was fired right before that. Um, so we all I think we all miss Mike McCarthy in some ways. We don't miss McCarthy ball, but we miss Mike McCarthy, and
But but here's the thing, and LaFleur's doing it now too.
yeah,
What pisses me off, and I credit Ryan Wood for saying something. It wasn't Mike McCarthy's job to come fall on the sword for Ted Thompson for inactivity and free agency and trades. And it's not Matt LaFleur's job to do that either. That the GM needs to get their asses out there and have that conversation with and answer the questions. It's not fair because they're not the ones making the decisions. Now, if Mike was making the decisions, 100%. But his whole thing was, oh, the trade deadline, when is it? I thought it was next week. That's what it's like around here. Like literally, like Mike has a great sense of humor. And I know people get tired of coach speak, but at some point you just get tired of answering the same freaking questions time after time after time after time after time. And it's like questions that he can't answer, MJ, because he's not the one making those decisions.
Yeah. So the other thing that has kind of been going around on Packers Twitter today that we would be, misled and unfortunate to not talk about is on what was the show called again, Joe? I forget.
Clubhouse Live.
Clubhouse Live. Devondre Campbell speaking on Clubhouse Live, specifically talking about Jordan Love. I'm going to play the clip. It's about 30 seconds. And
it's Dylan Levitt as well. Like initially gets asked a question about Jordan Love, and then at the end you hear Dre come in and answer it.
I mean, I think Jordan's a great player. I think he's a great teammate. I'm not in the offensive meetings, but I can see the way that the ball comes out of his hands. I can see the way that he's decisive playing against our defense. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I think we got a pretty good defense, and he does a really good job for us in practice, gives us a real look, and it's pretty impressive. He's done some pretty impressive things.
He's a starting quarterback.
Okay,
Yes.
there we go.
Yeah.
No question.
He's better than a lot of quarterbacks, and there's a lot of starting quarterbacks.
Wow, there we go. That's good stuff there. How about that? Yeah.
I mean,
so Joe, is it time for love? When does it become time to bench the $50 million man? And I'm going to preface this by saying, as I always do, I have been the person just driving the Aaron Rodgers train for years. I mean, I've done debates against a bunch of people about how Rodgers is better than Brady. His stats are some of the best stats of all time, that at least in terms of a thrower of the football, Aaron Rodgers is the most talented thrower of the football I've ever seen in my life, right? Because
I know a lot of people in the NFL and people I know in the NFL have said that for quite some time. So yes,
but so I have to be fair. When you look at the numbers of this season, Aaron Rodgers has one of the worst completion rates ever. He's already thrown more interceptions this year than he's thrown in any, season outside of 2015, going all the way back to basically 2010. Like, he's having one of his worst statistical seasons. His efficiency is down. His yards per pass are down. Everything is down compared to the Aaron Rodgers that we know and love. And at some point, Joe, that's okay, because he's 39 years old, and it is not normal for a quarterback to continue all-world performance until you're 39 years old.
Unless you're on a golf course in Florida.
That's just not normal. So, at what point, Joe, when the Packers are 3-6, you're going to make me act up. At what point, when the Packers are 3-6, do you say, Aaron, I'm sorry, we have to make a change here?
Full disclosure,
Joe, unless, if the Packers lose one more football game, they're done.
Full disclosure, I'm in a group chat with Jacob Westendorf and Jason Perrone.
Right.
And we've been in this group chat now for a number of years, and I love them. They're my brothers. I love them to death. And it's a question that we asked each other. It got brought up, and in a whole nother conversation. And Jacob felt December 4th is the target date for that.
Okay.
but I think we all agree, and I agree with them, that the minute Green Bay is mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, that's when you see what you have with Jordan Love. And furthermore, and I think it's fair for Aaron Rodgers as well. If they feel that it's best to move on, you're going to have teams like the Commanders, like the Colts, like the Raiders. You're going to have some teams that are, to be very nice, very interested in moving for him. And
Yeah.
you're gonna have to make a decision at that point. That's based off what things I've been told from people not in other organizations. So those are things that you're going to have to kind of, weigh. But I would say when you're mathematically eliminated, because if not, you still have a puncher's chance. I mean, you never know.
No, they don't.
You never know. I mean, look, to me, this season's over. I'm gonna be honest, and I hate to say it, 9 weeks in, when your receivers can't stay healthy, when your left tackle not necessarily can stay healthy, and he's in and he's out, and he's in and he's out, and I'm still trying to figure out what the hell's going on there. When your defense loses, arguably it's one of his two best players, unarguably with losing Rashawn Gary. You lose Eric Stokes for quite some time. There's, your season is pretty much okay. Now, what do you want to do? Now, I'm always looking ahead, and it's a fault because I try to live in the moment.
Yeah.
But when you're always looking ahead, you got Anderson from Alabama coming out. That'd be a huge need on the outside as an edge rusher. You can never have enough premium edge rushers. And you could do a lot of things with him athletically. You look at the offensive line. There's some good offensive linemen in this draft coming out. You look at the receivers, because at the end of the day, you're still going to have to get receivers, whether Aaron Rodgers is here or Jordan Love. You want to get him targets. And if you don't sign an Odell Beckham, let's say, which I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but he's mentioned him as in his final four. When you have that option and you have some of the younger guys, let's say you get a Addison from USC by way of Pitt, like he'd be a nice fit, just depending on what you're looking for. So I think you have to kind of look at everything and be honest with yourself as an organization to say, is winning 7 games worth it? Is winning 6 games, if we can secure a top 5 spot? Like, you kind of have to maybe have a long-term vision to have a short-term. They got to have a long-term vision to have short-term success. It sounds kind of ass backwards, but it's what it is. And Jackson Smith in Jabba from Ohio State, he's another one. Like, he can flat out play. I'm a bigger fan of that team of Marvin Harrison Jr. though. I think he's got special written all over him. And there's another player who I watched, a receiver, a big kid from a MAC school. I watched him last week. And he's like 6'4" and like 190, a big, I wish I got to go back and figure out his name, but he's another one. That's not saying early, not saying top 5, but I'm saying that you have to get, and if you drafted a top 5 in MJ, and I want to get, you can't draft an AJ Hawk, meaning you can't draft a guy that makes plays behind the line of or in front of the line of scrimmage, and like, he's getting a lot of tackles, but they're not tackles for losses. And it's not a dig on AJ Hawk. He had a great career, did a lot of good things in Green Bay. But when you're drafted top 5, you're supposed to be impactful from day one or close to it.
Yeah. And
he just was a very good player, a very solid player. He was Brian Noble for the people in the 80s and in early 90s. And Blake Martinez would be another comp for the older, the younger generation. He was just one of those types of guys.
And I think it's just like, realistically, I know Zach loves posting this picture. That is realistic, right? They are eliminated from the playoffs. I have my quarterback looking like this against Washington. I then have Washington doing this to me after Sauce Gardner did it the week before. And on every single play, Joe, our offensive linemen look like this. And our receivers look like that. Oh, that was the play call? You have a veteran Sammy Watkins running the wrong route, and this is what he and Aaron Rodgers look like after. Oh, so you're saying that was a fake? Oh, okay. And then, Joe, I don't know if you saw, but right after that, you can very clearly tell that they checked out of a run play. You want to know why? Because Elton Jenkins was pissed. And Joe, let's just say that there are some very not happy people in the Green Bay organization right now. And that's obvious, right? You're a team who's supposed to be a Super Bowl favorite that's sitting in 3-6, paying your quarterback $50 million. Okay. And it's just not a good situation. It is a divided organization. And that's not just over the quarterback. That's over a lot of things. Losing.
Pray tell a lot of things.
Do you want me to pray tell?
Talk about a couple. That's fine. I'll see if we can do like confirm or deny or confirm.
Oh, so we want to play a little game?
Yeah, confirm or deny.
Okay. Confirm or deny. Let me just get a little banner up here. All right, Joe. Confirm or deny. There is a divide over who the starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers should be.
Amongst who?
Players.
Confirm.
All right. Confirm or deny. There is, how do I phrase this? We'll just go with similar phrasing. There is divisiveness among players about who should be in control of the offensive play calling.
Confirm.
Confirm or deny. There are players in the locker room who are concerned with members of the offensive coaching staff.
I have not heard that.
Okay.
And after you're talking about Steno, I have not heard that.
Okay. Basically, what I heard on that one is that it was a bit of a rush. Like, nobody's saying bad things about Steno. It's just like they moved him up to the box for a reason.
Okay,
the box move, as far as I heard, wasn't like, oh, let's see if we can get something creative, like they tried to spin it on the Fox broadcast the other day. It was just...
I've been in a situation in Vegas at UNLV where an offensive coordinator took over midway through a year or right before the season started. The offense, which was potent, more potent the year before, wasn't moving like they should. He was also an offensive line coach. It was recommended to the head coach that he gets moved up to the box or suggested. Okay. He did, and offense got better because he could see a clear view, and he's not focusing just on his line. So that could be just to give him a clear view of the offense. But I haven't heard. I mean, there was going to be growing pains there regardless. It's a first time, but it's not like it's his offense. It's not like he's the one calling the plays either.
Right. Correct.
Okay. What's the next one?
Let's see. I'm trying to rack my brain if I've got. I feel like I had something else. Oh, this will be a fun one. I know you've got to confirm or deny for this one, because I got a little something, but I know you got a little bit more for me on this one. Confirm or deny, Mr. Joe, sir. There's a little bit of a divide on the type of defense being run.
I got it. That's a duh.
Confirm, deny, or duh.
Or duh. Like, yeah. I mean, look, like I think now Joe Barry is a year removed from having a defense that technically is was a top 10 defense. Technically, this still is a top 10 defense. It's actually was top 5 heading into, I believe, the Detroit game where they actually came in at number 8. 8 overall, 1 against the pass, 20 something against the run.
Yeah.
To me, this is a problem. I think where it's not the Rams where you have Hall of Famers. Not even that. It's not even. He's got the pieces here. I think he's overthinking it.
Yeah.
Like Jair you have Jair, Rasul, and then prior to this week, Stokes and Keyshawn. Those are guys that can man up.
Right.
Put them in positions to do what they do best. Let Jair shadow the best receiver on the field like he did his first few years, but prior to under Mike Pettin. Let him do that where you've seen the success that he had.
They're still the 6th overall defense.
Yeah, but they're not playing like they're not playing like it though. I mean, they can't get off the field in critical situations.
But
in the
Joe,
fourth
how
down.
much of that is because the offense is just screwing them over again and again? They're
That's
getting
not
no
that's very valid point. But the reality is, if it's third down in 9 and you're supposed to be playing sticks, but you're playing 12 off the ball, and they hit a little 9-yard hitch, and you just lean forward to pick up the first down. That's not on the offense.
It's Mike Pettin 2.0.
So is it a defensive coordinator or is it an organizational philosophy? Then you ask that question.
I mean, after watching Dom Capers and then Mike Pettin and then Joe Barry, I'm inclined to think it's an organizational issue.
Just
because
like special
how can
teams,
all
right?
3 of those guys run equally bad, similar type defenses? But Joe, who in the organization? How is it an organizational issue though? Because how through 3 different defensive coordinators, different GMs, different head coaches, complete turnover with players, like how is that?
How was special teams an organizational failure as well? Like if you don't, okay, so we have 12. He'll score points. We just gotta play a bend don't break defense. They did well. They did well when they're blitzing.
Yeah,
and Quay Walker, solid. I think he's put together some solid games. Isaiah McDuffie, you may have something there with McDuffie. I thought there was something there when they drafted him. He just needed some time to develop.
Yeah.
And Chris Barnes is back. I mean, and if Vondre could come back, now you got you're good. You have 4 really good backers in the inside. You're going to need them. We're Rashawn Gary. Now other people are going to have to step up. Unfortunately, that's the nature of this business. And in the defense, maybe they read their own press clippings a little too much. Maybe they did going into the season. But I also don't think a guy like I talked about it last week when Bruce was on. I do not have a problem at all with Jair Alexander, him talking, because he's done that the whole time. Him being demonstrative, he's done that the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just magnified now. Was that penalty stupid? Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes you need that to wake your defense up. Remind, this is who we are. We're supposed to be physical. We're supposed to be tough. We're not letting them do. And sometimes you take that penalty and you're like, okay, I was not making an excuse, but it's just what it is. So for me, I find it just extremely interesting that people want to, take a shit on Jair when he's playing better than anybody on defense.
And Joe, I think that goes to this, which is the other thing I wanted to talk about today. That across the board, and I know people are going to take this directly to Aaron Rodgers, and this does apply to Aaron Rodgers, and I think there are a lot of people in the organization who want this to apply specifically to Aaron Rodgers, but it's not just about the quarterback. This is across the board, and that's what you just said, Joe. for special teams, for defense, for offense, for the way they're building a roster, for the way they're getting prepared for games. I mean, we've heard more this season. It was always what LaFleur would say after his 3 losses each year. Hey, we weren't as energized going into this week as we should have been. That's on me. The practices weren't as intense as they should have been. And you're hearing that almost every single week. Something that I actually saw on TikTok before the game was a clip of the Arizona Cardinals locker room. And now I know this is a little bit, skewed because as far as we know, this could be going on in the Green Bay locker room. It just didn't get videotaped and put out on social media. But there's a clip of Budda Baker, who is one of the team captains for the Arizona Cardinals, just absolutely chewing out his entire team after this loss. He said, "I'm tired of losing, man. He's like, we need to practice harder. We need to work harder. We need to watch more film. We need to recover better. We need to prepare better. And he's just going off because he's one of the captains of the team and he's trying to light a fire under them before it's too late. Because even though they're 3-6, their division isn't as great as it normally is. They do have a chance. Packers, not really.
No, they don't. Vikings are running away with the division.
We've seen in the past Rodgers with his relax, Rodgers with his run the table. I don't even see Rodgers even looking for that. He's just like, yeah, we need to win.
Well, okay, but
LaFleur says, yeah,
there needs to be
better.
There needs to be accountability, but in order to be a leader, you gotta make tough decisions. And Gutekunst, the accountability starts with technically it starts with Murphy, but whatever.
Let's not get us started.
But then it goes to Gutekunst, then it goes to LaFleur, and then it goes to Rodgers and the coaches and the team. Like that's what it goes. That's what it goes. You can't help injuries. You can't help the fact that Detroit plays on one of the shittiest turf fields in the NFL, and that's what caused Rashawn Gary to blow his knee out.
Right.
You can't help that. You can't. Same thing with Eric Stokes and his ankle and knee. You can't control where if your offensive line is being shuffled around because your starting left tackle, who's the best in the game and meant everything to you, is still dealing with knee issues. Right. Like that's uncontrollable. But what you can do is say, okay, look, 12, you threw this out here, but you got the Gore coming across this post right here. He walks into the end zone and we win the game if you hit him on that.
Right.
You can't control how often you give Aaron Jones the ball. You can't control how you use Romeo Doubs and not try to make him something he's not. Those are the things you can control. You can't control your offensive line and say, this is what we're rolling with. If you're not ready, we're just going to roll without you until you feel like you are ready. And then at the end of the year, you're probably going to have to make a tough decision there. So when you look at it, there's things you can be accountable for and there's things you can't. And I think the sooner Aaron Rodgers is accountable for his poor play and not come out and say Tom Clemens said, no one gives a shit what Tom Clemens said. No one cares. No one cares. Fans see what they see. And yes, we fans and media people may not know the offense, may not know what the reads are, the protection call, the check with me.
But I know points. I know points.
Right.
And that's the entire point.
Yes.
I don't care about your stupid grade, Rodgers. We care about you scoring points. And that's what you should care about too.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers out of the equation with what I'm about to say. And the most disappointing part of this team this season has been the defensive line. Yeah. They have become softer than cat shit. They literally, it's infuriating because I know Kenny Clark and I know that's not his personality.
Yeah.
There's no way that group should be pushed around, be should be pushed around and pushed like they are, and giving up that many yards on the ground. So that's the most disappointing thing this season to me. And again, I exclude Aaron Rodgers from that just because I'm tired of talking about Aaron Rodgers and
Yeah.
his play that has been as inept as I've ever seen it from him.
And Joe, outside of his play and the accountability he needs to take, there are so many other issues. Like at this point, it would be great if he was playing like an MVP, but to some extent, I don't blame him for playing like crap when everybody else is playing like crap, and it doesn't seem like anyone cares.
I no, I don't. The players care, but they look at their biggest captain who's in his. Oh man, it's be cool. Shit.
Right.
Like, we're good. Don't trip. We got it. We got it. And now it's week 9, and you're like, we ain't got shit but L's. What the fuck are we doing? Like that.
Joe, at what point do they just call him out themselves? Like, at some
Players?
point as a unit, you got, like, even Mason. Come on, bro. Talk to your boy. Like, you've been together the whole time. Talk some sense into him. Someone has to step up. Rodgers is not the leader of this team right now. Somebody.
No,
has
I
to
think
step up.
the person that has been most vocal in privately, but to people's faces, is Jair Alexander,
Right.
Devondre Campbell. Those are guys, Elton Jenkins.
Yeah.
Those are guys that are Kenny Clark, that are very Amos. Those are guys that are very vocal about where things are and accountability or lack thereof. At the same time, 12 still carries a lot of cachet. And
Well, of course it does.
And look, I remember, and this, God, I sound like an old head right now. I grew up in the 80s when Lynn Dickey, Randy Wright, Dave Campbell, Blair Keel, Mike Tomczak, Anthony Dilwig, Don Mikowski. Those are the quarterbacks. Like I grew up in that era, not seeing my squad I root for on TV maybe once a year, which was on Thanksgiving if they play Detroit. Maybe if they play the Rams or the Niners or somebody, or the Raiders on the West Coast, Chargers. But I've never taken for granted the elite quarterback play that I've seen with Favre and with Rodgers. I've been very blessed since becoming, a mid-teenager, 14, 15 years old, to watch Green Bay play at an elite level for almost all of my adulthood. So maybe I am a little, Packer fans are spoiled. Packer fans in your generation, like yours, I think you're as old as my son, or my son's a little younger than you. He's spoiled. He remembers Favre at the tail end of his career, but Aaron Rodgers has been his quarterback. Right. He's spoiled. It's like peanut.
My first 2 football memories are Brett Favre. Everything else is Rodgers.
So, with that being said, it's like we've now, as Packers fans, we've become accustomed to a standard. And the standard is get to the playoffs and do everything you can to get to the Super Bowl. That's the standard. Nothing less. Win the Super Bowl should be the standard. And one of the things that irritates me is, they've only won 1 Super Bowl with Rodgers or 1 Super Bowl with Favre. You act like winning a Super Bowl is hard. It's not our fault. There's some freaking reptilian alien that went to freaking New England and then Tampa Bay and has won more Super Bowls than any organization in the NFL. Like that's unheard of. And it's Bill Russell-esque and Jordan-esque when Jordan was in the taking rings away from everybody else in the NBA. And I say that because Drew Brees only has one ring. Steve Young only has one ring as a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
But no one talks about his legacy. So for me, I don't take for granted where Green Bay has, how far they've come from when I was a kid to now as a middle-aged man. But I will say this. I'm all for finding out whether or not Jordan Love is the guy sooner rather than later, because I think the numbers that Aaron Rodgers is putting up right now, Jordan Love could put up himself.
Well, yeah. 2-to-1 interception ratio and like 200 yards a game. Yeah, of course he could. And it's just, I think the general sentiment amongst Packers fans, and I'll be honest, I didn't even watch the entire game on Sunday because
Really?
no, I didn't want to. And so I turned it off for a little while because I didn't feel like watching it. Turned it back. I think I turned off like the third quarter. Because I just, as a pure fan, I wasn't interested in watching the product they were putting on the field. And I think that's what it boils down to, just purely from the fan perspective, taking away as we wrap up all of our journalistic, viewpoints that we had. We've gone through all that. Just as a fan, it's sad. We're still going to support the team through and through. But at the end of the day, it is sad because, like you said, Joe, we have a very high standard that Packers fans have been spoiled and used to for a long time. And it's sad not to see that. And again, for my generation, it's sad to see our guy, Aaron Rodgers. Like you said, that's really the only quarterback I've known. Your son, plenty of people our age. It's sad to see him, riding off into the sunset. We got a couple more years than we thought we were going to get, but it appears he's about done.
And that's fine. In 2 years ago, when the whole thing broke, and I was like, make the trade. I said it. I was torn, but I was like, it's about the organization and make the trade. If you're already thinking about, if you're 1 foot's out already, it's like, if you think about retirement, if you're an athlete, you already are retired. They should have just pulled the trigger then, ripped the Band-Aid off, and say, this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to roll. And look, I hope to God people don't shit on Jordan Love when he gets in, because yes, this is year 3 of his, or 4. 3. So he didn't have a rookie mini camp. He didn't have OTAs. He was, out of all he was a guy that needed all that coming out, so, and full disclosure, the mock I did for Franchise Sports Media, I had Green Bay drafting Jordan Love, and it's still up. Like, we did a live show. We did a live thing. I had them drafting Jordan Love because I looked at the board and there was nothing else that was there. And knowing players that played with Jordan at Utah State, knowing guys that he's worked out with, and knowing he's the real deal. It's just a matter of when he's going to get the opportunity to grow, because all he needs now is time on the field. And we'll see that whether or not happens this year or not. But, I'm kind of tired of the melodrama. Honestly, I liked it better when they're just winning football games, and there's more fun to talk about them. And every week it's the same shit, talking about Aaron Rodgers and his, Jordan Love and Packer. That's not fun to talk about. I'd much rather have a good time and figure out what the hell what the bet was for MJ, since David Bakhtiari came back week 3 or week 4. Gosh. Yeah. He still hasn't owned up to it, folks. Still hasn't owned it. He's trying to weasel his way out of it. Little snake.
With that, ladies and gentlemen.
See, look, he's getting out of it now. Little snake.
Oh, Joe. Joe, I'm excited. You gonna be at the combine, Joe?
Maybe. I know Super Bowl is first, and
Right.
then maybe the combine. I want to get out there. I mean, I got to hang out with you some more, bro. Like, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we have a good. I just don't have as many connections in Indiana, in Indianapolis as I do in Vegas.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I believe the draft I'll be there. That's in Kansas City this year, and Jake and I
Yeah.
were talking about making the trip there.
Oh yeah, I'll be there for that. I'll be there for the combine probably. We have Third Down Thursdays applied for Super Bowl credentials, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. We'll hook up together sometime in person. We'll do some content for here, all that good stuff.
This is MJ's trying to find his way to get out. Like, we're supposed to wrap this up, so MJ's like, how are we gonna? Like, act like you're not gonna talk to me next Tuesday.
No, I'm gonna be here.
Yeah, so yeah.
What you talking about? I love you,
So,
Jay.
I love you too, brother.
All right, folks. It's been a pleasure as always. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me, Joe, Bruce on social media. If you think I'm entertaining, Third Down Thursdays this week, 7 p.m. Central Time. We'll be back next week. Joe, I love you.
Love you back. Let's get a win this week, Packers. Let's shock the world. Beat the Cowgirls.
Screw the Cowboys.
Fuck them.
And with this, hopefully we don't look like this next week. Game on, Wisconsin. We'll see y'all later.